Judges refuse to hire woke Yale graduates amid cancel culture row. That's what I like to see. This has actually been happening for a while. Even going back like 8 years ago, I think I was telling the story, like how I was aware of my employers that I had back then blacklisting specific schools. Like generally this happened when a previously reputable school turns into a diploma mill, which happens time to time. So usually these companies would go to like career fairs and such. They'd end up hiring a bunch of kids from a specific college, and every last one of them is a wash. Once that happens like 2 or 3 times, like they get nothing but, bad people from a specific college, they eventually blacklist that college altogether. They may not be open about it, but pretty much every single employer has their blacklist of schools and also temp agencies that they don't do business with. So when I worked for the big defense contractor, we actually ran into a case where they for legal reasons, they wanted to give the job they wanted to promote a guy inside the department. But because of bullshit government legal reasons, they had to list the job publicly. So they got around that. Like they listed the job publicly, but they made the job requirements to have like been working on that project for 10 years. So like literally no one else could even get the job except for someone who's in it. And one of the temp agencies that they got candidates from time to time padded their resumes with, oh yeah, he's got 15 years of experience in this project. And they were all looking at each other. It's like, yeah, you know what? We've been at this project from the very fucking beginning. We don't know who these people are. Very interesting, isn't it? This is very interesting. So that temp agency got banned. Yeah, they blacklisted them and never took candidates from them again. And what sucks is it's not the people's fault. Like it's not the individual job seeker's fault. Like that's the tragic thing. They're not the ones who did that. It's the temp agency that padded all their resumes. So a lot of innocent people had to suffer for that. But what else are you going to do? You can't trust any resume that comes in from that temp agency. And they do the same thing with schools. When these employers get enough really bad employees from a specific school, they never get anyone from that school again. And this is what's happening with Yale now. And people pay like what, $50,000, $60,000 a year just to be indoctrinated. A dozen senior U.S. judges have promised a hiring boycott of graduates of Yale Law School in response to claims of cancel culture at the prestigious institution, accusing it of undermining free speech and intellectual diversity. It's not accusations or reports anymore. Like we have the proof. So it comes after a federal court of appeals judge appointed by Orange Man, the former U.S. president, declared that he would no longer hire clerks from the Yale Law School after criticizing angry students for disrupting conservative speakers. In a speech to members of the influential conservative group, the Federalist Society, Judge James Ho, railed against the censorship targeting conservatives on law school campuses across the country. The judge, who sits on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, cited a number of incidents at schools in which prominent figures had faced campus vitriol. Yeah, so look at it from this judge's perspective. Why would he hire someone from that school when these are the same students who would be just smearing him and attacking him and protesting him if he went to speak at that school? Who in their right mind would hire these losers? So he singled out Yale, consistently ranked as the top law school in the U.S. for a particular criticism, saying the institution not only tolerates the cancellation of views, it actively practices it. In an apparent attempt to preempt accusations of hypocrisy, he added, "I don't want to cancel Yale. I want Yale to stop canceling people like me." He urged other judges to follow suit. Yeah, cancel culture. So students warned of diminished opportunities, and they did it to themselves. So on Wednesday, 12 federal judges said they would join the boycott and no longer hiring clerks who attended the Yale Law School, according to the Washington Free Beacon. Clerkships, particularly in federal courts, are coveted jobs in the legal profession. Many students choose Yale over other Ivy League institutions because of its record in securing clerkships with prominent judges. Yeah, you're not going to get a clerkship with a judge who you'd be protesting if he was speaking at your school. The judges who remain anonymous cited a series of incidents at the Washington Free Beacon where they claimed free speech is committing an attack at Yale law. Now, this remaining anonymous, okay, this actually leads to another problem. If you actively go out and say this, like, oh, I'm specifically not going to hire these types of people, you might get into legal trouble depending on the situation. So the best way to do this is to just do it quietly. Like, don't announce to the whole world, I'm not hiring, like those companies I was just telling you about. Every employer has a blacklist of schools they don't hire from, a blacklist of temp agencies they don't accept people from. But you wouldn't know that, would you, unless you were on the inside? Because they do it right. They don't let anyone know, because that would lead to legal problems for them. So it's all internal. They keep their blacklists quiet. Like, that would be the best way to deal with this. Like, imagine if pretty much every judge just stopped hiring people from Yale, but they didn't make a big show of it. Like, eventually you just end up with all these Yale grads wondering why they can't get work, but no solid proof. Yeah, they include an event in March involving lawyer Kirsten Wagoner, who represented a Christian baker who refused to make a cake for a gay wedding. Okay, so if you want to make that big of a deal about this whole fucking cake thing, go to a Muslim bakery and ask them to do the same thing, and see and try to sue them for it and see what happens to you. The event was thrown by students supporting the alphabet soup community and led to the police being called. The students should be mindful that they will face diminished opportunities if they go to Yale. One prominent circuit court judge whose clerks have gone to serve as Supreme Court clerks told the Washington Free Beacon, I have no confidence that Yale law students are being taught anything. That is exactly right. This is the attitude we need to spread. Employers need to realize that colleges are only teaching students how to be activists. If you don't want to hire an activist, if you want someone that'll actually do the job they're told to do, avoid them. Now, with one exception, the judges stressed that their boycott would be imposed on future, not current Yale Law School students. You think? So the move represents the latest instance of polarization in the legal community and comes as members of the polls, as a number of polls show Americans' growing distrust of the judiciary. Yeah, as these activists are placed in positions of power and they fuck everything up. Yeah. Judge Ho, who was nominated to the Fifth Circuit Court by Mr. Orange Man in current year -5, has been an outspoken critic of the rising political activism on university campuses. He previously defended Ilya Shapiro, the conservative legal scholar, after students at Georgetown University's law school called for him to be ousted from the facility over a position from a faculty position. After a post on Twitter he made questioning Brandon's pledge to nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court. So calling out racism gets you canceled. That's current year, man. That is current year.